I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 184. I always need to breathe after I say that. I don't know why. I take a deep breath like I'm going to say something profound.
Momentous.
But I have nothing profound to say other than we're back with this week's best comics and some viewer mail and some other fun stuff. Some beverages. I'm drinking coffee. Josh is drinking orange juice because he's battling swine flu. But really, lots of solid stuff this week, and I will kick my portion of the solid stuff stack off with Arkham Manor #1. This is written by Jerry Dugan, artwork by Sean Crystal. I believe it's Sean Crystal. Why don't people put the credits closer? Yes, Sean Crystal. Arkham Manor is spinning out of things going on in Gotham City. Arkham Asylum has been destroyed, and they need a new place to put them crazy people. And apparently there were 3 options on the list that the powers that be reviewed, and they felt like sticking it to Bruce Wayne, so they now house all of the Arkham inmates in Wayne Manor, because Bruce isn't there anymore. He's living in his high-rise apartment somewhere in Gotham City. And so
this is happening after Batman Eternal, too, I would assume.
It actually doesn't say, but I would assume so.
Well, because Arkham City, in this week's issue of Batman Eternal, Arkham is still there, and there's stuff going on at Arkham.
So spoiler warning.
So yes,
Arkham
so this,
destroyed.
just like the current Batman storyline, is presumably happening after Eternal is over.
Yeah. And so that's it. So there's much more to it, and I think one of the things I really like about, one of the things I really like about this is that it's narrated by Bruce Wayne, and he's sharing or shedding light on his parents' history with the mentally ill and kind of the history of Arkham and Gotham. It's just I can't really put my finger on what I really liked about it, other than I think Dugan has accomplished something worthwhile in making it unique as a Bat book, because there are so many Batman books that are out there for people to choose from, and they all really need to have their own voice and to have their own, draw. And the draw here, I don't know if I should say what happens near the end, but should I say it?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think it spoils anything, but by the end of the book, Bruce is going undercover in Arkham as he steals some dead guy's identity and is basically being locked up in Arkham without all.
Which is his house.
Yes. So presumably he's going to have some secret hideaways and things that he can utilize there, because he's not going in with his utility belt and cape and cowl.
But I mean, he's going undercover as Matches Malone in prison. More than once.
There is prison and there is Arkham. They are not the same thing.
Yeah. And I'm impressed at the turnaround time, because they've already got it redone and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know how much. I can't talk. Time passes, but yeah, there's significant changes to Wayne Manor.
Yeah, it's a very solid read. Really enjoyed it. Arkham Manor, one of the new Bat books from DC Comics.
The Bat Universe, where architecture is important. We like buildings. Next up, my first pick this week is Goners, which is from Image Comics, written by Jacob Saman. Saman?
Sorry. I don't know.
With art by co-created by and drawn by Jorge Corona. See, I know how to say Corona because there's a beer.
Seaman and Corona.
Something about spring break. So Goners is a book set in a world kind of like ours. There's I don't even know. There's these people who are kind of paranormal investigators, maybe fighters, busters, more investigators though it seems, and they're out in the open. People know about them. People know about the paranormal stuff going on, and this book takes the point of view of their kids. There's a married couple going off investigating and fighting the supernatural, and this is their kids at home seeing their parents fighting things on TV. And it's called Goners, so it's not going to be a happy ending. Things go horribly wrong for the parents, and this is about the kids being sort of the heirs to the legacy of the supernatural detectives, and also having to be immediately on the run, having their lives in danger because of their connection to this family, this family and this legacy of hunters. And it was very cool, very fun. It had a rhythm I liked. I really liked the random police detectives. They weren't kind of sketched in. They actually had some personality, and I loved their interaction with the kids and the other bodyguards, and I just thought it was fun. It was a surprising, fresh book, which is what Image does best.
Surprising and fresh.
And seeing in Corona.
Superman 35 is on my list this week, written by Jeff Johns, artwork by John Romita Jr., and this is the Superman book you should be reading. Of all the Superman books that are out there, and I still am digging Superman, Wonder Woman, but...
Which got a new creative team this week, I noticed. Is that temporary or permanent?
That's permanent. Okay. Charles Soule is off the book, off to do other things at Marvel. It's just... This book is really, really good. It's Superman the way we kind of want him to be written. The supporting cast feels right. You know, everyone's kind of back at the Daily Planet, so you've got Lois and Jimmy and Perry. You've got this Ulysses character who is very much a Superman type character, but his parents are still around, so you see Clark/Superman is trying to guide this character into, you know, acclimating himself or reacclimating himself to our Earth. There's a lot more to it than that. Hopefully you've been reading along and you kind of know what I'm talking about. If you haven't checked it out, I would go back and start with, I think it's 32. That was the first issue.
That sounds correct,
with this creative team.
Because that was the Bombshell month, so I think that's correct, yes.
Just seek it out. The first issue, basically John Romita Jr.'s first official DC work, was the first part of this. And, you know, Jeff Johns is a master. He's a master storyteller. So if you want to read a really good Superman story, you should be reading the regular old Superman book over at DC. And there you have it.
I like me some Jeff Johns. Huh? All right, next up, we've got one of my favorite books consistently, Injustice, Gods Among Us. We're into year 3 now, and this is issue 2. Still written by Tom Taylor, art by, by lots and lots of people. The first one is Mike S. Miller and friends. I was a little worried when we went to the 3rd season of Injustice, because, I mean, the first arc is sort of about the fall of Superman. It's about him getting to the point where he would basically become a dictator and try and control everything to the point where he's enforcing his will on the world. The second arc is about Batman leading the underground, which kind of came to a head at the end of the last thing. And this is a different direction. This brings in bigger forces, which is kind of impressive when they were already throwing around Green Lanterns and Mogo and whatnot last book. And the main new force in the book is John Constantine, and they're trying to deal with mystical problems. Throughout most of the last arc, they used the Sanctuary of Fate, the Tower of Fate, as a sanctuary from Superman because of its mystical nature, where Batman could heal up after Superman broke his back. And this is about John and Batman, and basically John trying to see if Batman is still good enough. You know, I mean, he's been literally broken down, and it's just awesome. All right, let's see if I can get this to work. I have no idea. What is the most key Batman character moment in the Justice League International run, the original one?
When he punches Guy Gardner.
When he punches Guy Gardner.
Yes.
There's another moment like that in here. And there's also a moment that escalates the level of the conflict beyond anything we've ever seen before, and I made a little fanboy squee when I read it. So if you like DC Comics, there's no reason to not be reading Injustice. It is the closest, not the closest because it's an alternate reality, but feels the most like the classic DC universe that we loved for decades.
Absolutely. And I just am having bad imagery of Josh making a little fanboy squee. I don't know. It's little fanboys out there, be careful. Look for this man and stay away from him. Memetic, #1, is my final book of the week. This is written by James Tynion IV and artwork by Eric Donovan. This is only a 3-issue series, which is, in my opinion, a little bit of a detriment to it. But the first issue is so reach out there and grab you sort of thing and it's oversized. It's definitely got a lot of bang for your buck in here. Oh, there's it's like supplemental material. I read it first as a digital preview many, many moons ago. It's very much a story for today, where some meme shows up on Facebook and social media, and it catches on like wildfire, and the media's reporting on it, and all this other stuff, and basically, you know, a very high percentage of people on the planet Earth have seen this meme, and then things start going bad. If you've seen it, like within it, there's like a gestation period, and then suddenly you turn into a freak and start attacking people. It's kind of like a zombie plague almost. That's caused by viewing this meme of a ferret or whatever. I think it's a ferret.
It's a sloth.
It's a sloth. Ferret. Same thing. So, I mean, it just really had this feel of, end of the world, zombie apocalypse sort of thing, without the zombies, but just kind of freaky deaky stuff. And there's a core group that's trying to solve the problem, and like, don't look in the Arkham Manor sort of thing. Don't look at the meme, don't look at the sloth. And President Obama's in here, and he looks at the sloth, and then some bad stuff happens. So
did they actually call him Obama? I wasn't sure.
It was just Mr. President.
Okay, it totally looks like him,
looks
so
like
it's
Obama.
him. But
but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, and great for new readers, old readers, whatever. Just a really interesting premise. Again, kind of disappointed that it's only 3 issues, so I'm hoping that Tinian just had this great idea and had the whole thing plotted out, because I want it to be cool.
And I think part of our aversion to 3-issue series is a retailer thing. I mean, by the time the 3rd issue comes out, by the time we figured out how to order it, the book's over.
Well, you're right. But, before we even got this first issue, we had to order 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
So,
But it also, I mean, it says something that in the day of trades, he didn't go to 6 issues. He said, 3 issues is what I want, and that's what the story is. So, I liked it. I hope it's good.
Yeah, me too.
All right, and next up, my pick of the week, I think was Mark's pick of the week, too. In our opinion, the best comic book in America this week.
Yep.
Is Amazing Spider-Man, number
8. Number 23.
Written by Dan Slott and Christos Gage, with art by
Giuseppe Camicoli on the first story, and Umberto Ramos on the backup. I know this stuff.
You're very good at this.
Right off the top of my head.
So we've got the lead story, which continues where we left off last issue, with Peter and Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, fighting supervillains. And I feel like this really brings Kamala into the Marvel Universe. Anybody can be good in their own book, but her actions with Spider-Man were really cool. Mm-hmm. And I think her fangirl nature, she references a fastball special, and she does little fanboy squeeze. You can tell.
She does, yes. Well, her eyes, go ahead. Just the most of this story, 75% of the book is the Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel continuation of the previous story. And then we'll get to the back part in a minute, but that part to me felt like, classic Marvel team up. Hero shows up, especially with a new hero. So the introduction, and you hit the nail on the head. This is the introduction of the new Ms. Marvel to the Marvel Universe. It just felt right. And then there's a scene towards the end, where Peter compliments her, and the battle's over, and she's like, "Oh, I'm late for class, or I gotta go," and you totally see Peter, the connection there between these two characters, and I hope that they stay in touch and show up again. But I loved it. Made me want to cry.
And also this does bring the learning to crawl Spider-Man storyline back into the fold, and we see some of the repercussions of that. It's not really a mini-series because it was within the main series, I guess. But
it was that story. I mean, it was published separately, so
yeah. But that brings it in, and it adds to and is part of the Amazing Spider-Man stuff going on here. And then we come to the backup, which is the next chunk of Edge of Spider-Verse. And this takes us to, the MK2 universe? Is that what they call it? The MC2.
But apparently it's Earth, whatever that is, 387?
982.
They're just making this stuff up now.
Nope, there's a whiteboard somewhere, so everybody's got this written
somewhere
down.
Somewhere in Dan DiDio's office, oh no.
Rip Hunter has
There are a bunch of Earths.
But this is the universe of which the best-known character is probably Spider-Girl, Mayday Parker.
Daughter of Peter Parker and
Mary Jane.
Introduced in the classic What If story written by, what's-his-face?
And
Tom DeFalco, yes.
Yes, and DeFalco wrote a lot of the Mayday stuff, right?
I think he
all
wrote
of it.
99% of the Spider-Girl stuff.
And heartbreakingly referenced in One More Day, last one. When Peter made his deal to get rid of his marriage to MJ, there was this flash where he sees a little red-haired girl, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I'm fine. But Peter Parker's daughter, and as we know, the Moreland and his family are hunting down the avatars of spiders, all the spider avatars. I'm not actually 100% up on my Mayday Parker stuff. Did they have a kid before? A younger brother?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they have come to attack, and May herself, obviously, Mayday, and Peter and her little brother are all spider avatars, being part of the Brown Line.
Parker.
I'm fine. Don't say things like that. And this is the story of what goes down when they come to take them out. And it was perfect. That was everything I wanted to read.
It was too short, man. It was. I want Dan Slott to write a Mayday Parker Spider-Girl series. And if you have not read the Spider-Girl series, written by Tom DeFalco, and I think Ron Friends did the art, and Pat Olive did the art, too. It's just phenomenal. I mean, Marvel tried to erase the existence of this character, and instead they created a new universe where they could go off and do their own thing, and they had, future versions of Daredevil, who was Dark Devil. You had the American Dream, who was related to Captain America somehow, or she was the new Captain America. The Wolverine girl, I don't know who it was. Juggernaut. I mean, there were familiar characters, but most importantly, we saw Peter and Mary Jane develop as characters and age, and Peter lost his leg in an epic battle with the Green Goblin and has a cybernetic leg or a bionic leg. He works as a crime scene, a crime lab person for the police department, and that doesn't happen in this book. I'm just saying.
You don't need to know any of that for this book.
You don't need to know any of that.
But it's good.
But for those of you that enjoyed Spider-Girl, this is a must read. You cannot skip this. And I really want to see what happens next.
Yeah.
And I got to say, this Spider-Verse stuff is really blowing me away by the quality and the overall quality, and my interest level in it is extremely high. Now, I'm a longtime Spider-Man fan, but I was just working on our order for books that aren't shipping until December, and there's an issue where there's a team-up between Ultimate Miles Morales from the Ultimate Universe and the cartoon Ultimate Spider-Man that's currently on Disney XD. Which
is Peter, right? In that universe.
It is Peter. It's a teenage Peter, but they're just pulling in anything and anybody that's ever been Spider-Man, along with new creations. I mean, we saw Spider-Ham, last week or a couple weeks ago. Just crazy good stuff.
Yeah, and I think the quality is twofold, or at least for two different reasons I can see. The first is I think Slott is kind of helming it, and you have an overarching vision.
The plot is Slott, and the script is Christos Gage. And I initially was disappointed because I'm such a huge fan of the way Dan Slott writes these characters, but Christos Gage is doing a great job. Yeah.
And the other thing I think that's key to the success of Spider-Verse is the way it's divided. One issue, 6 or 8 page backup, they can pick the most emotionally resonant moment of the story. You don't have to have 6 issues and then a super awesome cliffhanger. You just jump straight to the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And it's working.
Yeah. So this is all Edge of Spider-Verse stuff. So we're actually getting to Spider-Verse very soon, possibly with the next issue. I don't remember exactly.
I'm not sure either.
But man, it's good.
It's very good.
Spider-Man number 8 was hands down the best book that I read this week. Yeah. All right, so we got a little viewer mail. This message is from Matt. He says, "Hey guys, I love watching your YouTube TV show every week. I grew up on Marvel and DC cartoons, so when I started becoming a comic book reader a couple months ago, I knew what Marvel and DC characters I wanted to read about. I'm now starting to branch out into the independent comic book companies, and you guys have helped me to discover other publishing companies and their amazing comics. Because of you guys, I have picked up Saga, Pirouette, Outcast, Sex Criminals, and a few more. I was wondering how I can find out what some good non-Marvel or DC stories are, or how do I find out about new stories coming out?" So, let's start with good non-Marvel or DC stories are. Just keep watching our videos, and we will tell you what the good non-Marvel and DC comic stories are. There are plenty of comic review sites out there and news sites that could be a possibility. I'm a big fan of a site called comicsalliance.com, which I don't think has the following that it should. I think they're less about sensationalism and press releases and things like that, and they're actually about deep diving into reporting on stuff and giving their opinions on things. So news sites like Comics Alliance are a great place to start. But the bigger thing here is actually a big thing called the Previews Catalogue, which is published by Diamond Comics, who is the sole distributor for Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, IDW, Boom, and a bunch of other folks. And it's about a 500-plus page catalog that comes out every month, usually the last week of the month, and shows you everything that will be in comic shops anywhere from... With comics, it's about 2 months in advance. With statues, toys, T-shirts, and things like that, it could be up to 6 or 8 months in advance.
Or a year or two, depending on...
But the Previews Catalog, to me, is as enjoyable as reading a new comic. And one of the nice things about Previews is they're rolling the price back to $3.99 after the first of the year. Okay. So it will be the same price as an average comic. And you get basically to see what all of the publishers have in store 2 months later. And then you take the Previews Catalog and you make your list of things that you want, and you take it to your local comic shop and say, I'd like to set up a pull list, or please order these items for me, add them to my pull list, because that really helps us decide, what to order, number one, and how many copies of a book to order. Right. So a new book, I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, for example, Edge of Spider-Verse #1. We had no clue, really, because it wasn't Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Right. Do we order Spider-Man numbers? Do we order half of Spider-Man numbers? Do we order more than Spider-Man numbers? And so the more people that tell us in advance, hey, I definitely want this book, that helps us decide. That helps us make sure that we have the comics that you want, and other local comic shops are the same. For independent publishers, it's extremely important because, especially if you're a fan of a certain creator, you want to tell your local comic shop to add that to your pull list because they may not order it. There's so many different... there are literally, dozens and dozens of small independent publishers, and I'm lumping Image and IDW and Boom into that. So we're going through, hundreds of options as far as what we stock in the store. So you telling us, hey, I want this new book by Kelly Sue DeConnick, or I want this book by Brian K. Vaughan, or whoever, that helps us out. So the Previews Catalog is really your best resource, and it's a very small investment every month for some great knowledge, some great reading, and previews of what's to come. So that hopefully helps out a little bit. What we're going to do next week is the new Previews Catalog will be available, and we're going to do it. I keep saying deep dive. I apparently want to go deep sea diving or something. Next week we're going to go snorkeling. We're going to dive into the new Previews Catalog and give you our top picks out of the November Previews Catalog.
Which will be books coming out in January.
That will be for books coming out in January. So there's time for you to let us know, let your local comic shop know, hey, I want this new series. Hey, I want this one shot. I want to buy that T-shirt. Whatever. It's just full of amazing geeky stuff. So that's it. We're going to skip a top 5 because we've had some excitement here at the shop. Josh has been under the weather. He had to kill a mouse this morning.
Those are not related, I don't think.
No, but yeah, I am not a big fan of things that scurry, and so...
Skittering's okay.
Josh did an epic battle with Maximus the mouse, and it emerged victorious.
He was a worthy foe.
Yes. So anyway, that's it for this week. Keep the comments and questions coming, and we'll see you next time.